Will you accept this quest, O Dogo of the Shire?
Yes, but the way is long, and the journey is perilous. How will I ever overcome it?
Fret not, young hobbit, for you have my knife, and you have my bow, and you have my rax.
Thank you, everyone. Though I'm not sure how this will help me throw the ring into the fire of Mount Doom.
Ring? What ring? You, my friends, are now the Fellowship of the Fring. This tasty morsel of evil can only be destroyed by the hot vats of Mount The sound that you make after eating a bunch of these frings. You must go and take this away to... Well, I guess we're all doomed now.
Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Cook That, where we make things tastier than the feeling of a satisfying ending to a great story. At least after the first time. Once you get around the third and fourth, then it starts feeling kind of repetitive. As you may have been able to guess from our stellar intro for this episode, today we are going to be looking into one of my favorite movie and book trilogies, Lord of the Rings. And today we are going to make Lembas bread. Now the secret to great Lembas bread has been kept away by the elves for many, many centuries. And the reason is pretty obvious. It's so easy to make that if anybody actually knew how to make it, they'd be out of their brand of bread. So they've kept it a secret. I'm going to reveal to you today the best tasting Lembas bread. And normally, Lembas bread is said to be kept for months upon months on end. But this bread is going to be so tasty that it won't even be able to be kept around for a week. But before we begin, let's start with our main tool. A food processor. You can mix by hand or even an electric mixer, but for ease and for sake of time, we're going to just simply use a food processor. Now, thank you for joining me over here. Now, if you've already watched a couple episodes of Cook That, you probably already have all the ingredients you need right in your home. So what do we need? Well, since it's Lembas bread, we're going to use 2.5 cups of bread flour. You can use all-purpose flour in a pinch, but I really highly recommend using bread dough to get that nice crispy outside. You will also need 1 tablespoon of baking powder with 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Try to make sure that the baking powder is aluminum free, otherwise your final bread might have a little tinny flavor. Send that in for a buzz, just to mix it all up. Now take a cold stick of unsalted butter, cut it up into multiple pieces, put it right into the pool. Blend it up until you have something that resembles sand. And make sure that it's fully shut. Otherwise, you're gonna have a bunch of poof. Until you have fine pieces, like this. Now we wanna make sure that this dough is nice and moist, so we're gonna continue on with 1/3 cup of brown sugar. And while this may make it moist, we also want to add a couple flavors to it as well. So add on there a combination of 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon with 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, and of course, a few grates of fresh nutmeg. You can use the tin stuff, but why would you? This is just so much better. Once that's all in, throw back on your lid. making sure that the top's on as well. Send it for a whirl. Once everything's nicely mixed, now we begin adding our liquids. To our delicious cream-colored bread, you must add 2/3 of a cup of cream, and our delicious sweet bread can only be naturally made with 1/2 teaspoon of honey. We'll also need a little bit of freshly zested orange, just to make this a delicious treat any time of the day. Morning, lemsies, noon, tea time, dinner, supper, and dessert. You only want the zest of the orange, because that's where all the essential oils are. You can get flavor with the juice itself, but you'll get much more concentrated and potent flavor, and not as much liquid, if you use the zest only. And finally, we cannot have this delicious lembas bread without the essence of the malaron tree. But I don't have a malaron tree and I don't know where to find its essence, so a great substitute, almond extract. We're going to go 1 teaspoon. And let it whirl. It's going to be quite crumbly. This is our lembas bread dough. Take a clean surface, throw a little extra flour down just to make sure nothing sticks. Grab your dough, plop it right out. Yes, it is quite crumbly at the moment, but that's why we're going to do a little kneading. It's almost like biscuit dough. Lembas biscuits. That is a delicious and well-deserved treat for any adventurer. Once you've given your dough a couple of good kneads, make sure line it up into a square and roll it out. You're looking for it to be about 1/4 inch thick. Remember, these things are not super thick. Once you're done going one way, and don't worry if the edges start getting a little cracked. Remember, this bread is supposed to be handheld, so we're going to have to cut it out into travelable bites. Once your dough is about an even 1/4 inch thick, that's where you grab yourself a knife and start cutting out what you need. Tear away the outside pieces. Don't worry, we'll just make more in just a minute. Once you got your dough all nice and perfectly squared, that's where you go in and start actually making your lembas. We're gonna want these guys to be about 3 by 3 inches, or about a finger's length. Now if your last strip isn't quite long enough, just put it in with the rest of your dough pile. As you saw with our scrap dough over here, it is very tender at the moment. So to make sure that you can actually transfer this without it all crumbling and breaking apart, spatula, that's the only way. Get right underneath it, and voila. You're going to want to make sure that you have a sheet pan lined with parchment paper ready to put these lembas bread on. Continue with the rest of the dough. If you still have enough space on your baking sheet, take your remaining dough and repeat. If at any point it starts sticking to the actual rolling pin itself, make sure you dust it up. If there's a little space that you could add a little dough, cut off a little bit on a wonky end, place it where it needs to go, shift it down. If there's not enough dough left to make another lembas bread, or if you kind of just want to be done with it, remember, this bread hasn't been made with any eggs, so this mistake, what mistake? Last thing to do, is to put the indicative cross right in each lamba spread. Make sure that you don't go all the way through. And to ensure that our cream-colored delicious breads puff up and become golden brown and delicious, we just need one last thing. Take a little bit of actual cream. You can also use an egg wash as well, but I'm going to keep to the cream-like tradition. A little brush, and let your inner artist work. Remember, you don't want a lot, otherwise it'll become too saturated. And we are complete. Pop these bad boys into a prepared 425 oven, middle rack. And let time do her magic. Normally, we wouldn't put parchment paper in anything above 400 degrees, but this is only going to be in there for 12 minutes. 12 minutes. This is just heavenly, but oh so filling. I can't go on with eating this any longer. But now I have the sudden surge of energy to continue my journey. That's right. I'm going to go on an adventure! Stay awesome and stay weird, my friends. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching my first season. I hope you enjoyed it, because I really did. Let me know down below if there's anything that you want to see in the future, anything that you liked, that you didn't like. I really want to try to make these better. In fact, if you give me about, let's say 500 thumbs up, I will continue to make these videos. And not only that, but I'll try to bring on a full-time video editor. That way, you know, you can actually get something great instead of my wonderful quality. But anyway, like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, social media, whatever you can do. And, as always, stay awesome and stay weird.